Okay, so last class we talked about the Diffie-Hellman key agreement protocol, which is a first practical methods for establishing a secure secret over an unsecured communication channel. So this is a protocol we still use. Of course, in the class, we talk about the basic principle, the basic protocol. In real world, we extend the protocol to solve some other issues. We also looked at several cryptographic hash functions, and we know that they generate digest, and based on digest, we can check the integrity of data. So today, we will first talk about password hashing. Then after that, we start talking about public key crypto system. So this week, we will talk about public key crypto system and some other crypto systems on top of public key crypto systems. So we already talked about hash functions, and we know that hash functions, they are designed to be very fast, very efficient. We can perform hash operations in many hash operations in a very short amount of time. So some of you here may invest in cryptocurrency, that Bitcoin or whatever. So hash function plays a very important role there. And there have been a lot of companies developing specific hardware to calculate the hash, just to make things even faster. So making hash function fast, efficient, this is a wanted property for many applications. However, it's not a good idea for a password. So like I said before, imagine how you design a simple authentication system using password. Every one of you use a lot of password. You have an account on a website, and that account associated with a password. Only correctly input the password, you can log in the website. Other people without that password, they cannot log in. So how this is usually implemented is you choose a password, and the password is somehow hashed and stored in the server of the website. So the password you choose is not directly stored in the password of the website, because if that website is compromised, then your password is also compromised. So if we only store the hash of the password, if the website is compromised, only the hash of it is compromised, still attackers cannot reverse what your password is. However, we cannot, at least right now, we do not use those simple crypto hashes to hash password. We used to do that. Well, we used to even just store the plain text password. The reason is those simple crypto hash functions, they are fast and efficient. So one way to guess your password is just a brute force. We just try all the password, and if your password is only like a PIN is only 6 digits, 8 digits of usually hexadecimal, right? So the password space is just maybe smaller than 1 billion. And just trying all password and to say if they match the hash value will just take maybe several hours or even faster. So it cannot really resist brute force attacks. Guys, can you be quiet? So just guessing, brute forcing all the password will only take several hours, which is not secure, right? So the purpose of password hashing, designing new algorithm, is to make the hash process slower, not faster, slower. So it takes much longer for the attackers to brute force the password. So in real world right now, we don't use MD5, we don't use SHA-3 for password hashing. We use something called password-based key derivation functions to hash your text-based password. As the name suggests, those algorithms do not only just generate a digest, it can generate a crypto key for you to use. The crypto key can be used for basically the hash, the digest. You can use it as a crypto key for your symmetric algorithm. So this is a crucial part for secure password storage right now. So if any of you design a system right now, if you use a PHP, write develop a website, do not use SHA-3 or MD5 for password hashing. Go for password-based key derivation function for that. So this kind of algorithms, they are designed to be slow and computationally expensive, making it difficult to attackers to just brute force the password. So usually those algorithms, they take several parameters as the input. First of all is the password itself, what password you are choosing. Then a salt. Salt is kind of like an IV in the symmetric key encryption. It's not necessarily a secret, but it should be random. So the purpose of this is giving the same password as long as you have a different salt. Usually we just concatenate the salt with the password, then use the hash function to calculate the digest. So even the password stays the same. Many different people, they choose the same password, but we get a random number for the salt. So the hash value will still be the same. It will not be the same, right? That's a purpose. And also an iteration count. So the purpose of that is we want the algorithm to be slow. So the easiest way to make it slow is we execute this 1,000 times, 10,000 times. So it will be 10,000 times slower than just do one hash there. And also a desired length for the output. How many bits of the output do you want? So the salt is just a random number, not necessarily a secret. Before we have those password-based key PBKDF, before we have that, even just use simple crypto hash functions, we started to add salt to the password in password hashing. So there are several popular PBKDF algorithms. So the one we use, I design some systems for password authentication systems, and I always go for Argon 2. So Argon 2. So before Argon 2, there are several others: PBKDF2, Bcrypt, Scrypt. We also used them before, but right now it seems like Argon 2 is the latest one, and I believe it won some. So Argon 2 actually won a competition back in 2015. So some organization came up with a password hashing competition it's a solicitation for new password hash algorithms. Should be slow, computationally expensive. Yeah, question? Yes, you save the salt. It's not a secret. Yeah. Yes. We assume the hacker have access to the hash, and if the website is compromised, we assume they have access to the hash and also the salt. Both, yeah. Algorithm what? Well, we're still using most of them, but well, I would say probably right now the best one is Argon 2. I personally used script before, and it was a city of competition, and I just get a Amazon, like a 100 core Amazon computer to hash that to brute force the password using script, and I believe that time the password space was more like a 1 million or 100 million. And I was able to brute force in like 10 hours, I believe. I remember that time. That's several years ago. And for password hashing, there are a lot of tools. One of them is called Hashcat. Hashcat can, if you Google Hashcat, you can find that it's just a command line tool, but under the hood, it can use GPU and everything to and also hardware to increase the password guessing. And that time I believe so. So usually when I choose an algorithm, I will say which one Hashcat currently do not support. I believe Hashcat right now already support bcrypt. Yeah, I'm not sure about scrypt. But Argon 2 is still, I believe is the latest one. I'm still using that. Yeah. So here I give you just a small piece of code example that so you can sense how you use this Argon 2 algorithm to hash password. Obviously, it takes password, salt, and the desired complexity here. So you can tell the algorithm how many iterations you want here, and what is the memory cost you want for this password hashing. So this is the Python library I'm showing here. The time cost here, we choose 6, which means we are doing 6 iterations, and you can do many, many more. The memory cost here, we choose 64 megabytes. So imagine you are the defender, then you choose a big memory there. Then the attacker side, when they do that on then all the password on the password space, the millions or even billions, and that will make their guessing very slow. So that's how the password hashing works. Any questions? Well, you just concatenate them together. It's kind of like the Ivy in the symmetric key crypto. Yeah, it's not a secret. Yeah. There's no dehashing algorithm here. So hash is a one-way function, like we discussed before. It's a one-way function. So here we assume the hash function itself is quite secure, right? Even SHA-3 is quite secure. But the problem is it's one way and super fast. So you do not have to reverse it. You just need to compute every password's hash, then compare the results. So yes. So when you log in, your password will be sent over to the website. The website will hash it again and compare using the salt and everything, hash it again and compare with what they store in the database. But obviously, if you send your password plain text from your browser to the website, then that communication channel has also need to be secured. That's the TLS part. Yeah. Any other questions? So the attacker, what they do is they, for example, this library, there is another function called Argon to verify. Okay, and in that function, there is no parameters for time cost or memory cost. It's already part of the hash and the algorithm itself. Yeah, the attacker do not choose that. Yes, there is a verify function. Yeah, in this library. Yes, that's supposed to be random. Cool. So next we talk about public key crypto. So far we learned about symmetric key crypto, and this is a very powerful tool. We are still using it, and we know the design principle behind the symmetric crypto is actually very easy to understand. Just two things. One is called confusion, another one is called diffusion. Basically, substitution and also transposition. Okay, that's our main two approaches to design symmetric key crypto. And using symmetric key crypto, we can guarantee confidentiality. And also, last class, we talked about how to extend crypto, symmetric key crypto, to something called message authentication code, or MAC. So using MAC, we can use symmetric key crypto to enable authentication and integrity, which means the message, if the message is modified, we will know that. If the message is not from whoever it claims to be, well, here both party, right? Then we can also use MAC to identify that. However, symmetric key crypto has one big disadvantage: is before the communication, you have to somehow share the secret key between those two communicating parties, which means you need a secure channel for key distribution. But usually you don't have a secure channel there. That's why we talked about Diffie-Hellman protocol, and the inventors of this protocol, their idea was actually more ambitious than the protocol itself. Their ambition was to design a public key crypto system, but they was not able to do that back then. But they presented this Diffie-Hellman protocol. So in Diffie-Hellman protocol, two parties, they can negotiate a secret key, even if there is no secure channel. So before, we use symmetric key crypto to encrypt the communication between Alice and Bob. Alice and Bob, they can use the Diffie-Hellman protocol to negotiate a key and use that key for the encryption afterwards. However, this protocol is not perfect. Well, this is a lesson here. So nothing is absolutely secure. First of all, a lot of algorithms, they have their own weaknesses. And even if the algorithm part is quite secure, the implementation may have other limitations, okay? So nothing is perfect, and we don't have absolute security. So for Diffie-Hellman, one of the weaknesses is it is subject to something called man-in-the-middle attack, which we discussed last week. A third party can place themselves in the middle of Alice and Bob and negotiate two separate keys with Alice and Bob respectively. So Alice and Bob, they think they are talking to each other directly, but what they are doing is actually talking to a third party. So to solve that problem, and actually the very beginning of the idea from Diffie and Hellman was something called a public key crypto system. In this system, first of all, we take a look at what the system looks like instead of thinking about how this is implemented. So in this public key crypto system, every party has their own public and private key pair. So there are two keys. One is a public part, one is a private part. Since the public part is called public, it means everyone can know about that. It's not a secret. Okay, but the private part, only the part itself knows that. So in my slides, I use PK to represent the public key part. The private part, we use SK. So then we use a public key for encryption. Let's say Alice wants to talk with Bob, security. Alice has its own, her own public key and private key. Bob has his own public key and private key. Alice wants to send a secure message to Bob. What Alice does is use Bob's public key to encrypt that message, not using her own key. She used Bob's public key to encrypt message. Since it's Bob's public key, everyone can use that key, right? Even attacker Eve can use that message, can use that key. So when Bob receives the message, Bob will use his own private key to decrypt that message. Because it's a private key, only Bob has that. No one else, Alice or Eve, they cannot decrypt that message. So in public key crypto system, the idea is use the public key for the encryption and use the private key for decryption. So the algorithm is designed that even if everyone knows everyone's public key, but we don't know Bob's private key, then it's computationally difficult or invisible to decrypt the message, or it's computationally invisible to find its private key anyway. Yeah. So this public key crypto system is also called asymmetric key crypto system, because in symmetric key system, the sender, recipient, they have the same key. It's symmetric. The public key system, it's not symmetric anymore. So here is a slide to visualize this. Alice has a plain text, and Alice wants to send this message securely to Bob. They don't have a secure communication channel. They want to use crypto to build a secure communication channel. Then Alice will use Bob's public key here to encrypt the message. The encryption algorithm and decryption algorithm could be slightly different here. Depends on what is the mathematical foundation of the protocol, the algorithm itself. So after that, we generated a ciphertext. The ciphertext will be sent to Bob. Then Bob will use his own private key to decrypt this message. Any question regarding this process? So another application of this public key crypto system is we can use this for encryption, and we can also use to verify the authenticity of message. And this is something we call it a digital signature. So in digital signature, we do not use the recipient's public key to encrypt the message. Instead, we use the sender's private key to encrypt, but here we don't call it encrypt anymore, we call it assign a message. So how does it work is, let's say, go back here. So Alice will send some data to Bob. Alice uses her own private key, which only she has access to. No one else has access to her private key. Use a private key to sign the message. Then the operation is the same as encryption actually, but the output, we call it a signature. Then Alice will send the message and the signature to Bob. So Bob has a public key of Alice, right? So Bob can use a public key of Alice to decrypt this message, to decrypt the signature, which we call verify the signature, and say if it's a valid signature. If it is, it means the message is definitely coming from Alice, because only Alice has that private key. So all of this is the fundamental the primitives we use in our internet, our blockchain systems. So, for example, this is another scenario. So we have two parties here. We have Eve and Eve's company, and also the bank. So the idea here is Eve's company will send paycheck information to the bank, and how can the bank verify this message is really from Eve's company, not from Eve or anyone else? Then we use when Eve's company send out the message, it will use the company's private key to sign this message. So then the plain text and the signature will be sent to the bank, and the bank can verify that. So in this step, we don't care about the confidentiality of the message itself. If you care about that, then obviously you combine different algorithms together. But digital signature is only for authenticity, not for confidentiality. Yeah. So the question you have is, how do you know the public key itself is secure? The public key? Yes. The public key is known to everyone. So technically, like you said, everyone doesn't have to be the receiver. Everyone will be able to verify this. Yeah, think about the blockchain. This is very useful because we want everyone to be able to verify a transaction is a valid one. So that's part of the key management part where we're talking about next week. So this is a very big topic. The public key, since everyone can know about it, then it can be stored anywhere. So the real question behind this is, how can you prove this public key belongs to someone? How can you prove this is not a fake public key? Yeah, that's why we use a public key infrastructure. Basically, we have a chain of trust. Eventually, there is a trusted third party to sign that public key. So there is someone we trust. For example, internet, there are several companies doing this kind of a service. They give you something called a certificate, and they sign the certificate, and you trust that company. For VeriSign is one of those companies. I believe Google and also most web providers, they can sign your certificate as well, just to prove this public key belongs to you, not anyone else. Because this is a huge problem. Let's say I want to send a message to you, but I want to encrypt that message and send to you, use your public key. But somehow you give me your public key and say that's his public key. Then when I send a message to you, you will not be able to decrypt that, but only she will be able to decrypt. So prove what the key belongs to, that's a core part. That's a lot of proof that no crypto system or no system is absolutely secure or no weakness. There are always a weakness you can find. Yeah. So next we look at how RSA, one of the first public key crypto system, is how does it work? So most of the public key crypto systems right now, their mathematic foundation is number theory. Okay, so those cryptographers, they basically find out this is what we want. If we can have the properties list on this slide, then we can design a public crypto system. First, we need a special function f, and this function f has the following properties. First, the f itself is not a secret. For all the crypto systems, the algorithm itself is not a secret. F itself is not secret. Given the f, and an input x, it's relatively easy to compute fx. Relatively easy. Then, given the value of the output, like fx, it will be very hard to reverse, to compute the x itself. So this is kind of like a one-way function, right? Like a hash function, it's easy to compute the hash, impossible to reverse it. Here, we do not say impossible, just very difficult. However, a very important property of this function is if there is another additional secret t with the function f and with that additional secret t and also the fx, it will be easy to find the original message x. So the function like this, we call a one-way trapdoor function. And the t is the trapdoor of the f. So t is a secret here. If you have the t, it will be easy for you to reverse. So t is a trapdoor. So if we have a function f like this, it will be easy for us to build a public key crypto system. We just use f to do the encryption. F is the encryption function. And the t will be the private key. That's it. So next, let's look at a concrete example, which is RSA. So RSA is the first one, a public key crypto, and it's designed by 3 graduate students at MIT back in the 70s. And they were inspired by the Diffie-Hellman paper. So they designed the system. So R and S, when they designed the system. So R right now, Rivest. So he is still a professor at MIT. And if you took data structure and algorithm design course, and one of the classic book on data structure and algorithm design, he is a co-author of that. Shamir, I don't know if I pronounced that right. So he went back to Israel, and he's a professor there. Anderman, he was a professor at USC at least 10 or 15 years ago. I'm not sure where he is right now. He did some very interesting research in DNA computing, I believe. So when they were back at MIT as graduate students, so R and S basically designed the crypto algorithm, and his job was to break the algorithm. So it took them a long time so RS come up with a new algorithm, they bring it to A, and A try to crack that, to say, later, the R and S find an algorithm that A cannot crack. That's the RSA algorithm. So the mathematical foundation for RSA is it's difficult to factor large numbers. Let's say I give you an integer n, and you just factor it to 2 different integers, p and q. And of course, here they have to be large numbers, and they have to be prime numbers. So given only that n, it's mathematically difficult to find either p or q. However, if you give you n and give you p or give you q, it's just super easy to find another number, right? It's just a division. But without that, it's very difficult. That's why the p or q in this case is the trapdoor. So this is a picture of those 3 gentlemen back in the 80s, and also they got a Turing Award for this in 20 years ago. They got Turing Award. Okay, so you guys remember the Diffie-Hellman got their Turing Award maybe in 2015? Yeah. So after the RSA. But RSA was inspired by Diffie-Hellman. Okay, so let's see how this actually works. So first of all, we have a party for key generation, and that party will generate two large prime numbers, P and Q, same lengths. For security, it's better if they have the same lengths. Then compute the product and the P and Q, which is N. Okay. Then N is public. Everyone can have that. So obviously the key generation part, you cannot have an N first, then calculate an P and Q, because that's mathematically difficult. But you do the reverse one. You just choose two large prime numbers, then get the product of them. Then you choose a small prime number E. And that small prime number E will be our public key. The reason we make that small is because it's public. We want to make it shorter, okay? Because the security of it doesn't matter. We want to choose a relatively small one. However, the private part is something we call D here. So we compute, what we do is we find the smallest D. Even if it's the smallest D, usually it's still a very big number, bigger than E. So the product of E and D modular P minus 1 times Q minus 1 equals to 1. And actually, that P minus 1 times Q minus 1, P and Q here are prime numbers. That is called the Euler's totient function. Okay, so mathematically this is sound. That's basically what I'm saying. Okay, I'm not a mathematician myself. So the public key here will be E and N, and the private key here will be D. So next we look at how does the encryption work. So given a message M, the M should be smaller than the N they choose there. Then the encryption work as we compute M to the power of E, okay? Because E is public. So anyone can compute this. Then just mod N. That will be the encryption of N. So this is kind of like a stir. It's just like one block, right? So one block of message can be represented as a mathematical number, just M, smaller than N. Then to encrypt that block, we just compute M to the power of E mod by N. So the decryption side, what we do is the ciphertext, we call it C. We just compute C to the power of D, then just mod N. Then after this, we will get back to, we'll get M. However, without D, this will be very difficult to get the M. So here's one example. This is just a simplified example. The real world numbers usually are huge. They are thousands of digits long, those numbers. So here, like we're just using 11, 7. Those are just 3-4 bits, okay? So let's say P is 11, Q is 7. So then part of the public key N will be 11 times 7. So we get 77. And the Euler's totient function will be 11 minus 1 times 7 minus 1, which is 10 minus 6. So we get 60. Then we choose another small prime here, which is 37. And we compute the smallest D, which can satisfy that equation. E times D mod 60 equals to 1. We find the smallest D there. And E times D in this case is 481. And we find so we just we can go through all those prime numbers and to check which one works. And in this case, we find that D is 13. So like I said, this is an example. In real world, usually D is supposed to be a larger number than E, but in this specific example case, D is actually smaller. Then the public key here will be N, which is 77, and E, 37. That's it. P and Q, 11 and 7, those are secret. And we do not share that, but they are not the secret key. The secret key is a D, which is 13. So let's say we want to encrypt the message 15. Then we compute m to the power of E mod n, which will get the number. Eventually, the ciphertext will be 71. When we do decryption, we just do 71 to the power of D, which is D is 13. That then we mod 77 again, and we can get back to the number 15. Okay, so that is how it works. Any questions here? So all of this seems like very simple math calculations, but what really behind this is years of research in number theory and a very strong background in math itself to come up with solid plans like this. So besides RSA, there are many other public key crypto systems, especially now we are moving to the age of IoT, and then we are looking for faster public key crypto systems that we can deploy on those very low-end devices. Air Gamma is another protocol. It's based on a different math problem. It is actually based on the discrete logarithm problem, which is the same as the DH protocol. DH protocol is also based on that. RSA is based on factoring large numbers is difficult. So, like all other systems, RSA has its own weakness. First of all crypto systems, you can brute force it. You can just try all possible keys. And also, mathematically, people find out that factoring a large number may not be that difficult. Okay, so originally, we believe, well, if you just try numbers one by one, if you just write your own algorithm to enumerate all the numbers, all the prime numbers, and say if you can give you an n, you say you can find P and Q. That's exponential. The mathematical, the complexity, algorithm complexity is exponential. However, some research find out there exist some sub-exponential algorithms, but they are still super polynomial. So still very slow, but it's not exponential. That's a big jump. That's why right now, the standard is to still make the key, make the integer, the prime bigger, okay? So it is believed that the length of n right now, 2048 bits, would be quite safe, still quite safe. Okay, but that's a huge number, 2000 bits. The example I showed you here, the largest number we have here is like 77 something. That's just 8 bits, right? 8 bits will be enough. But in real world, we use 2000 bits of n and other messages. So, like other crypto systems, we also extend the original math with some other things to make it more secure. For example, we add a little bit of padding on the message. So this is the same like have an IV or even have a salt. The quite same idea. So even if you have the same message, the same encryption key, you do not generate the same output because you bring a little bit other randomness there. So that's the padding part of RSA. So right now we are using several different RSA standard. They have a different version number, and they defined how you should pad RSA, pad the messages. Also, RSA right now, it's also a company's name. It's a very important security company, and I believe it's part of EMC right now. There are two different standards in the 0.5 version. They pad the message and they believe to be chosen plain text secure. For the 2.0 version, you can see that the padding is more complicated. You in this padding, to do the RSA encryption, you first choose a random number R here. Then you generate a hash of that random number. Use that hash to do an exclusive OR with the original message. Then concatenate with the second part. The second part, you use two different hash messages, hash functions, and the original message and the random number you generate. Okay, so those random numbers, they're not really secret. And the hash functions, obviously, they are not secret, but they are important here to make the RSA resistant to those replay attacks, something like that. Also, just to make the factoring harder, we just choose longer, bigger n. However, like all crypto systems, no matter how secure the algorithm itself is, there are always implementation issues. I talked about hot bleed attack twice, I believe, already. So in that attack, basically it's a system security problem. Even though the crypto algorithm is secure, however, the key resides in the same address space of the compromised process. So attacker can easily get the crypto key. There are other attacks, like if you took my software security class, you know cache side channel attack, which is a problem in all our CPUs. And using the timing information, attackers can infer what are the keys. So those attacks has nothing to do with crypto analysis. They're not trying to understand what is the weakness of the crypto algorithm itself, the design itself, but just to find the weakness of the system running those algorithms. So let's say we can speak this one. Okay. So now let's compare symmetric and public key encryption and say when we should use which one. First of all, public key crypto, you can see it's much, much slower than symmetric encryption. Symmetric encryption is just substitution and transposition. And we use S tables and P tables. So it can be very fast. The complexity, most cases, is just 0.1, right? You look at the table, complexity is 0.1, very fast. Even if you do many iterations, it will be fast. And also, the time cost has nothing to do with the key. Well, sometimes it's related to the key, but not that much. But here in public key crypto system, you can see that you need to compute m to the power of e. And if that e is a bigger number, which means this take longer to compute. And the difference is huge here compared to just replace, substitute things, or move things around. That's why we don't really use RSA directly, or any public key crypto system directly, to encrypt a huge data. You don't use RSA to encrypt your whole disk, which is several gigabytes or hundreds of gigabytes. You don't do that. You use public key you use symmetric key encryption, you use AES to encrypt that, but the key of that, you use RSA to protect. So the RSA will only protect like 20 bytes or 30 bytes of the AES key. And the key generation part of RSA is also very slow. But the key generation for AES is quite fast. You just need a secure random number generator. So digital signature, like we already discussed. This is a protocol we use in, this is something we use every day as well. Every time you need to prove who you are, you use this. This is different from the conventional hand signatures, but there are similarities behind them. So basically, digital signature help us to achieve the following security goals. First one is authentication. Prove a message is from some party. Also integrity. It means the message has not been changed. More importantly, it helps us to prove to achieve long repudiation, which MAC cannot provide. MAC can provide authentication and integrity, okay? But it can only provide authentication for two parties, both parties. Because both parties, they have the MAC is built on top of symmetric key crypto, right? So both parties of communication, they share that symmetric key. So both parties can compute a MAC, okay? So you cannot really tell it is from which party. You can only know both of them, either one of them generated MAC. You don't know which one, okay? That's a, so if there is a need to separate, to tell which one of those two parties generated a message, MAC cannot do that. However, public key crypto system can do that because everyone will have their own public key and private key. So this is a main difference between a digital signature and MAC. So obviously, we have the same attack models, same as other crypto, like symmetric key crypto system. Chosen plain text, known plain text, or key-only attacks. So the attacker's goal could be different, depends on whether you are using encryption or you are using digital signature. It could be total break of your system or selective forgery and existential forgery. So we talk about those two concepts last class. Selective forgery means the attacker can generate a MAC or a signature or encryption on a message the attacker chooses. But the attacker may not be able to choose all the messages, but some of the messages choose. Existential forgery means the attacker can generate a signature for a message he has no control. The attacker got a message in the communication channel. The attacker wants to generate a signature for that message. He cannot choose the content of the message. Okay, so those are different attack models. So the digital signature algorithms, they are very similar to the public key crypto algorithms because basically they're the same thing, right? You just use a public key and private key for different purposes. So they still have the key generation algorithm to generate the key pair. Then the signing algorithm will use the private key to sign, generate a signature, and there will be a signature verification algorithm where it takes the message and a signature and the signer's public key and output a binary answer, yes or no, if this message is signed by the author. Okay. So we can also use RSA to do this. However, so if we use RSA to do this, we face the same problem. Is because the signing part, we are still doing that message to the power of D. In here, the D is a private message. The problem here is, first of all, it's subject to both existential and selective forgery attacks. And also, another problem is it will be very slow. If your message is long, it's 5 gigabyte, 100 gigabyte, you are basically doing a full encryption on top of that message. That will be very slow. Or because of mathematically, the encryption and sign, they are the same thing, right? So we're very slow. That's why usually we don't do that. What we do is we use hash and sign paradigm. No matter how big your data is, we compute a hash value of the data. The hash algorithm will be very fast. Even if your data is huge, it will be very fast. Then we get a digest. Then we just sign the digest. Okay. So obviously here we want the hash function we use should be secure itself. The hash function we use here is just a simple crypto hash function, not the password hash function we talked earlier in this class. So this is RSA signature, basically the same thing. So besides RSA, also there are some other algorithms we use for digital signature. I believe they are more popular than RSA in signing. Yeah. So we have DSS and DSA. They are not based on the prime number factoring problem. Not prime number. Integer factoring problem. I mean, you don't factor a prime anymore. So they are based on discrete logarithm problem like DH protocol. However, all of those approaches, all of those mathematical tools, there is no formal security proof exist yet, even RSA, because like RSA is based on the integer factoring problem, and that problem is NP complete, right? However, no one so far proved that P equals to NP or P doesn't equal to NP. So technically, no one proved the protocol we are using is apt. The protocol itself is secure. We just do not find an algorithm to break it yet. Of course, most people believe P doesn't equal to NP, but that is just people's belief. There is no formal proof. Either way, either they're the same or not the same. Either way. So Digital Signature Standard, DSS, was published in 1984 by FIPS. FIPS is Federal Institute for... I don't remember what this one is, but S is a standard. F is federal. I should be institute. I don't remember what a P is. I believe this is a department related to commercial usage of password. So let's say there are several different standards, and they define how long your keys should be, how big that N should be there, so they are commercially secure. So from all of this, the crypto part. Okay, sorry about that. This one also. So right now, today we believe that what we call is 2 to the 128 bit of security is considered sufficient for the computer we have now, which means 2 to the power of 128 operations are needed to break a protocol. And when it applies to different crypto algorithms, it means a little bit different things. For symmetric key crypto algorithm, it means our crypto keys should be at least 128 or 112 bit. For hash functions, we wanted the hash size to double that. For public key encryption, the N should be at least 2,000 bits long. So that is a standard we are using right now. but this may change very fast. Okay, so now we summarize a little bit about the symmetric and asymmetric key crypto system. So we can use either of them for confidentiality, for authenticity, and integrity, but with different approaches. For symmetric key, we like AES, we use different encryption mode to generate something kind of like a string cipher to do encryption. For public key systems, we just use a public key to encrypt. However, because public key is very slow, we just use it to encrypt smaller things, like the secret key of the AES. For authenticity, for symmetric systems, we can build a MAC on top of that. We can also build a hash MAC, HMAC on top of that. For using public key systems, we just use digital signature. That's easier. Okay, so we haven't finished our discussion of the crypto background part. We will spend another more week on this, talking about the key management for public key systems and also symmetric key systems. So to correctly use those crypto tools, obviously you need to understand their limitations, not only security limitations, but also performance limitations. You should be familiar with some known attacks and choose correct parameters. So most of our security systems, security solutions will use some sort of crypto tool, okay? No matter it's system security or software security, you will use crypto a little bit. That's why for all the computer security courses, the first background we have to discuss is crypto. Also, no matter how secure those algorithms are public. The real secret is the key, right? Is the crypto key, no matter it's public or private. So the key, sometimes it's just random number. Even for, sometimes it's just a random number. So the random number has to be really random, should have enough entropy. So also we will discuss how do we generate cryptographically strong source of randomness. So in the system you are using, if you are using Linux, you can just get a random number from /device/u random. That's a what did I call it? That's a file on your file system, and from there you can, if you are using Linux, you can generate randomness from there. That randomness is from the input, like when you type your keyboard, it generates random data based on your typing, the timing of your typing, those things. And for other devices, they have some true randomness, true random generator. It could be a hardware that sense the environment and generate a random number. For my research, sometimes we find a challenge is the device we are using, the no-end devices. We can use AES there, we can use RSA there. However, the device itself doesn't give us enough randomness. Those are very low-end device. They don't have a random number generator. In C library, you have a random number generator. You have the rand function, R-A-N-D function. But to use that rand function, you need to set a seed. Then the rand function is kind of like a one-way function, maybe doing a lot of hash there to generate a longer random number. But the true randomness is from the seed. So how do we get the seed without a true random number generator? So on the system we're using, we cannot find a very good seed. So it's very challenging to build secure systems on top of those. Because of that, it's even hard to build a secure software, secure systems. Okay, any questions for this part? Okay, if no other questions, see you guys on Wednesday. This week, we will have our first homework I just want to emphasize, it's for this class, all the homework is individual homework, okay? So you are not allowed to discuss, you are not allowed to find the answers online. So the TA and the grader will be very strict on the AI policy for this course. Okay, see you guys Wednesday.